just start recording there now. The signal might that's normally just don't give it recorded on the procedure. I just going to record now. All right, listen, if a signal drops, go on. I'll give you a ring after, sure. And we can meet you back in just call it police headquarters presser. Yeah. All right.
No, we're not here yet. Sometimes there's a quick call that looks like getting where they are.
If it's too
Tracy's not even here yet. Tracy's walking up the hill. Oh, tell Tracy to go get a camera for you. Where are they? Okay, Johnny, just sprint like your life depends on it because of dogs. No pressure. He's already got a small camera for cutaways for me. So, what do you call it? Sorry, I mean I can film on my phone, but that was what we had to do yesterday, but it's not ideal. Actually, sure, do you not see me following? You don't see me following you around the Great Hall? Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Here, what happened? Thank you. So, like, oh, wait, yeah, if you go right beside RTA, BBC, Beltail,
anyone like CN by any chance?
So I'm just going to work out who's going on. Yeah, so just shout. Yeah. Can I just before we start, so we're going to do secondary statement chief, and we're just going to do which order this morning. Yep. Oh, no. You know the BBC, who else?
RTE as well.
PA.
RTE.
Well, Beltail, but Alison's not here yet. So, BBC, UTV, Sky, PA, RTE, and Beltail. Channel 5. Yeah, don't forget all the questions, okay? Then can I ask before, is it chief on opening remarks then SOS? That's what I'm going to clarify for you. Just want to clarify what you do there. So come back out, okay? Cheers. Wait, are you going to need a wee minute? Talking first.
No, I'm alright. If I stand here and say any a minute.
Oh my god. I like yes. I'm alright, I'm here last night.
Sorry. I need to get that. Alright, you're preserved the top of my head.
Should we say, I'll be right?
Yeah, there's one.
Thank you.
Move your arm just like this. Okay. Thank you.
Would you turn on the light here? Or actually,
I'm shooting you. Where you are, you can see you if you I will, but at the minute that's fine.
No.
yeah, because I'm shooting papers as well. I haven't even opened it, so I need to go away. As far back as I can.
You have to do it like this here.
Yeah, you got an eye there for half an hour. Straight out and like. Sorry, you sound like you're warm up now.
That's fine, yeah, as long as you're alright.
Alright, sure, we're not getting drunk.
You move it
No,
up.
it's grand. I don't need to move it, I literally just need to like look at the screen. They told me I could take it. I'll probably go back on the house
Shankill was the one where the police were running.
Has yours now?
What? No. I don't know. Well, the bottom box.
Fun games.
I did say you wanted to.
Of course, yeah.
Did I might be up?
And panic to go walls.
Oh, yeah.
It was. I found it.
So you will say no.
Is it?
Very good. Very good. That's mental. Mental.
Very good. Very good.
What you could do, see if that comes on. You can actually put that on top. You have it with you, then they'll be looking at you when you ask questions. Well, no, that they'll be looking at your camera when I answer your questions.
Oh, okay, yes, I can.
No. No. Is that might be, which one is that yours, your road?
Yes, that's mine.
Oh, this one? Sorry, sorry, I apologize, it's a sorry. We need to do something? Yeah.
I get extra pay easy after that.
I'm still waiting for that coffee, so I am. Yeah. Peter Picker. Coming up?
Thank you, yeah.
Well.
So what's that camera? So, that camera,
Oh, I think I was pushing.
That's right.
just a problem.
Are the boys coming from that way? Yesterday you could ride that way, so I guess that's what it's going to say.
See the pictures of the guy that
Hey?
Remember how oh, what's Heather's yeah. Carry on it, what's like? It's weird for there's a, okay, and what about this? What about this? Who are you talking to them? Did this happen?
No, she's not. She's oh, what do you call it? News
Okay, so the Secretary of State will do the opening remarks first, and then the Chief Constable. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I'm going to stand here. Here. So, BBC will be the first question, okay? Yeah, we're over here. Can't see, but you know where I have you, Alison, you because I have everybody else here. BBC as well. So BBC, UTV, Sky, PA, RTE, Belfast, Channel 5 and kind of thing. Sorry, Jim, it was very noisy, I couldn't hear it. You said SOS. SOS first, and then the Chief Constable. Thank you. SOS will be closest to the window. Perfect. That's what they were advised to do. Okay. What to do is another thing. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just put that in.
Are you okay to be in this shot here, yeah? Yeah?
coming yet? Nothing nationally? Can I just go in here and put this phone in?
I don't think we're streaming it, so I think we're getting ready to go live
Yeah.
with it, but you've got time to run through.
There we go.
Expertly done.
Move when you want.
expertly
So we put in the middle, please?
Hope it's on sound.
Yeah.
There.
Here they come.
Just there.
Good morning. Thank you very much for coming. I wanted to be here first thing this morning to meet with the Chief Constable to obviously discuss the terrible disorder we saw on the streets of Northern Ireland last night, to express my best wishes to the two officers who were injured last night in seeking to protect the public. And of course, I want to express my thoughts once again to Mr. Ogilvie, who was the victim of this appalling attack, and to wish him all the very best. Nothing can justify the violence that we saw on the streets of Northern Ireland last night, with masked thugs trying to burn and intimidate people out of their homes. Those organising these protests claim they're doing so to protect communities. In fact, they're doing the very opposite. They are damaging communities and hurting people who are innocent and who have been terrified by what they have been through last night. It is utterly shameful and it needs to stop now. John.
No, thank you, Secretary of State. Thanks for coming this morning. I'd also like to say I spoke to the Prime Minister this morning about the events last night. Last night was an act of self-harm by the people involved against the incredible communities in Northern Ireland. What we saw last night was an insult. It was an insult to the victim of the terrible attack that many of you will have watched online and that led to these disturbances. It was an insult to the members of the public who stepped forward courageously to stop that attack, and the police officers then arrived very quickly to arrest him. Please, please, please let the criminal justice process take its course. This morning at Belfast Magistrates Court, an individual faced the court charged in relation to what we saw online. Let that follow due process. And I appeal for everybody in Northern Ireland who may have any sense of people involved last night to take control of their actions. If it's your children, your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews, people in your sports clubs, neighbours that you think were out last night, stop them from coming out today. This has got to stop. We cannot have a society that allows this to happen. We have to make a stand. So please, no more.
Okay, so BBC. Morning, Brother, thank you. Chief Constable, firstly, you described what happened last night as an act of self-harm. You'll be aware that schools in parts of Northern Ireland have taken a decision to close early today. There's the potential for more protests. Again, how concerned are you about these potential further acts of self-harm, and how can your force begin to get a grip on what could unravel very, very quickly here? And to the Secretary of State, there were calls for calm yesterday from all political leaders across all walks of life. Clearly, they didn't work. This is now the third summer in a row that Northern Ireland is facing into disorder like this. What can you begin to do? Is this going to be the new normal?
If I begin, firstly, to get a grip. So last night, the men and women of the PSNI again got in harm's way to stop people from being intimidated and assaulted by these thugs. I also have to pay huge accolades to the fire service and our ambulance service, who were a credit to their professions yesterday. I'll remind everybody that last year we faced disorder, literally 12 months ago. After that disorder, 100 people faced prosecution through the investigation that we then undertook. Many of those people are now going before the courts and getting custodial sentences. We will deal with this. We will be on the streets tonight in numbers even more than we were last night, and we have got arrangements in hand to get mutual aid that will be arriving here tomorrow, and we're looking to get a further some 200 officers to get on the streets to deal with this. These young people who are doing this are changing their own lives for the future. They won't have the opportunities they would otherwise have had. So please, please, please think of that if you know anybody who could be involved in this. And as regards to schools and businesses and people who live in these neighbourhoods that have been affected, I completely understand, having witnessed the events of last night and I was out in Belfast, why people would make that decision. I support people who make that decision to make sure they're keeping their school children, their employees, their businesses safe. This will pass. I hope last night was the event that will see the end of any more protest, because we cannot have any more of this. And we will be, as I say, out in very high numbers this afternoon and this evening, policing whatever happens in Belfast and wider Northern Ireland today.
This is a time when political leadership is required, and I welcome very much that right across the political spectrum in Northern Ireland we saw those appeals for calm yesterday, led by the First Minister and the Deputy First Minister at the press conference they had with the Chief Constable, because this is when leadership is tested. Now, your question goes to the heart of the people who are doing this, because it falls upon them to decide, are we going to continue trying to attack people, burn people out of their homes, leaving children absolutely terrified as they're taken out into the dark with flames and screaming around them? This is not what Northern Ireland is. This is not the great place that is Northern Ireland, and it is their responsibility to stop. And the Chief Constable, I think, made a really good point, because about family members and others who will know, well, where were you last night? What were you doing? Because the responsibility is on all of us, political leaders included, but on all of us to say, stop doing this. And as to your last point, this is not normal.
Okay, UTV?
Good morning, gentlemen. My question to both of you, Chief Constable, what does it say to you that there's one night of disorder and you have had to apply for mutual aid, when you have warned again and again that you don't have enough police officers? One night of violence and you have to ask for help. What does that say to you about maybe not being given the funding and the support that you need politically? And to the Secretary of State, you'll be aware that one of the big issues in all of this has been how this man came to Northern Ireland. There have been repeated warnings about a porous border, about the common travel area being abused. That has all come to pass, hasn't it? And what are you doing?
Shall I take your question first? I am about to lay a written ministerial statement in the House of Commons, because when I answered the urgent question yesterday, I promised MPs that I would provide further information about the immigration status of the man who has now been charged and how he came to Belfast. That I will do. The common travel area is a long-standing arrangement between Ireland and the United Kingdom. There is already close cooperation between the Border Force, the PSNI, the Gardaí and the authorities in Ireland in trying to tackle illegal migration, and obviously we will need to reflect on the particular circumstances of this case. But what is at fault here is the person who committed this dreadful attack on Mr. Ogilvie. That is what we need to focus on. It is an individual who, it appears, has chosen to do this, and I agree with John that it is for the legal system and due process to determine how that is judged and what sanctions should then be applied. And you cannot put on those who have come to the United Kingdom in general to seek asylum what an individual has chosen to do. because the ultimate responsibility rests with that person, and that's what we're all appalled by. John.
Thank you. I want to really endorse those comments. And to the question of resources, when I arrived in 2023, having been in policing for a very long time, I could not believe the numbers of officers that this organisation had declined to, the lowest in its history. We are in a period of recovery, but that recovery needs to be sustained and it needs to be supported. Policing in Northern Ireland is uniquely complex, and we cannot let the police service of Northern Ireland down with regards to our funding, and we have done for some 14 or 15 years. So between Westminster, the executive and this organisation, we need to come up with a plan to support the long-term sustainability so that we can deal with the very unique events that we face in Northern Ireland in a way that our communities deserve to keep them safe. You do not get the events of last night, thankfully, elsewhere in policing generally. It happens repeatedly here. There's questions to be asked about that. And we can't deal with these issues if we've not got those community officers in those communities that need our support, problem solving, understanding young people and changing the pathways for their lives. We have huge gaps. The officers out on the street last night and who will be out there tonight are from our crime teams. They're from investigations into terrorist cases. They're from our domestic abuse teams. This has to be the entire organisation coming together to deal with issues like this, and we will. And we will identify and prosecute those responsible. But the organisation deserves and needs to be supported. And wherever I am the Chief Constable of this organisation, I'll be making that very clear to everybody.
Mr. Ben, just to follow up on the discussion there about the common travel area, we know that the suspect came from Dublin. How concerned are you, seriously, in light of the events of the last couple of days, that the common travel area is open to exploitation? And you mentioned there, you used the word that you will need to reflect on this. What do you mean? That sounds like politician talk. What do you mean by that, if you wouldn't mind explaining? And Chief Constable, you called for calm yesterday, you called for calm yet again today. The protesters were not listening to you last night. What makes you think they're going to listen today?
Well, to answer your question, the common travel area, as you know, is a long-standing arrangement which brings great benefit to the citizens of the Republic of Ireland and of the United Kingdom, and many people in Northern Ireland go across the non-existent border to go to work, to worship. When I said reflect, I'm talking about the circumstances of this particular case. I spoke briefly last night to Helen McEntee in Ireland about this because, of course, people will be seeking more information about the precise movements of the individual, and my written statement sets out, when it is published, what we know from the suspect themselves about how they said that they arrived. But the common travel area is really important, but we have a job to try and enforce immigration law, and that is why there is already close cooperation between the authorities in the United Kingdom and Ireland in trying. Well, in this particular case, an individual has been accused of committing a very, very serious offence. The fault lies with the person who has been charged and not with others who quite legitimately are able to come to countries across Europe and claim asylum, and if their case is justified, we have a long and honourable tradition in Britain of providing shelter to those who are fleeing the most appalling circumstances. In some cases, not that dissimilar to the appalling circumstances we saw on the streets of Northern Ireland last night.
So you're right. Yesterday we got all the political leaders together, we got civic leaders together, and everybody called for calm after this awful, awful assault. And we asked for everybody to let due process take its course. I can tell you a lot of people did listen to that, and a lot of people who were going to go on the streets did not go on the streets. I also have to acknowledge a number of community leaders and politicians who are out there trying to ensure that people behaved. And there was a lot of peaceful protest in Northern Ireland yesterday. Lawful, sensible, proportionate, peaceful protest. I would ask for everybody, again, to step up to make sure that those that were involved last night look at what they did last night. Look at the damage it's caused to their futures. Think about the consequences for their families, their neighbourhoods, their communities. It's very easy as young people to get carried away with a tide. It's very easy, these days especially, to look online and be persuaded by people who know nothing about Northern Ireland, know nothing about the communities in Northern Ireland, know nothing about the history of Northern Ireland, to take actions that they otherwise would not take. Stop looking at this nonsense. Stop listening to these idiots. We will be going after them for the incitement that they've been doing. Everybody, please, think about what happened last night and the terror that you caused to innocent families. A young family with a 2-month-old baby being evacuated. Let's just think about the society we want to live in. Let's stop that. Let's stop it.
You're going to follow up on people inciting online?
Yes.
Who are you talking about?
I'm not talking about individuals in this press conference, but people will know who were online last night and inciting this behaviour. They will know what they were doing, and we will be going after them. I'm not talking about individuals. I'm talking about the people that we will be investigating, as we did last year, and we prosecuted those individuals successfully. And that will happen again. There are consequences to what people do that lead to the actions that we saw last night. And the police will ensure that those consequences are carried through. I promise you that.
For Chief Constable, there was pressure in the wake of the attack in Southport and the subsequent riots that police should be releasing more information early.
Yeah.
The police did put out a lot of information about the suspect in this case, yet we still saw the events that we saw last night. So moving forward, do you think that will still be the correct approach when it seems to have had little or no effect? And for the Secretary of State, there has been concerns raised about the common travel area, especially for people that have seen the video of that attack and its graphic nature. Questions are inevitably going to be asked here about the asylum vetting process and how someone could come to legally be here who has the proclivity to carry out that level of barbarity and that attack. So how are you going to sort of examine that process to make sure that it's fit for purpose?
If I start with the information issue, so we learned from Southport through reviews that were taken after it occurred that there is a need, there is an expectation that where we have information, it should be released. And I am an advocate for transparency. I'm an advocate for candour. People know that from Northern Ireland. When you don't give information out, especially in this toxic online environment, people fill it with misinformation and nonsense.
Yeah.
What we should always do is be honest about what we find, and that's what we did yesterday. And by the way, those communities that were attacked last night, some were from ethnic minority backgrounds, many were not. These idiots didn't just target ethnic minority groups, they just didn't target communities, they targeted Northern Ireland, they targeted society. We have got to stand up to this, we have got to stop this happening. And I just want to remind them of this. We now put the images out of those people involved in this disorder for everyone to see. So we identify them and we prosecute them. We then put their images out when we successfully convict them. Do you want your images out there to reflect the sort of behaviour that we saw last night? I suggest none of them would really want that. So let's stop it. And we will carry on being honest about what we find out in this investigation. That's good, sensible, trusted policing.
To answer your question, well, the police, of course, in questioning the suspect, will be seeking to find out more about him and the circumstances. It doesn't necessarily follow that someone's previous history is going to enable you to know whether they might do something in the future. And therefore it's very hard to see how you can operate a system in those circumstances which attempts to anticipate what somebody might do. And we don't know the full circumstances, but we saw the horrific consequences in the video, the horrific video that was shared online and which has caused such outrage and such public concern. And of course, we must reflect on the circumstances, and we must continue to carry on with that strong cooperation between the UK authorities and the Irish authorities in seeking to deal with illegal migration across the common travel area. But the answer is not to say the common travel area is the problem. It has given great benefit to many, many people over a very long period of time, living in Northern Ireland, living in Ireland, living in the rest of the United Kingdom.
Chief Constable, can you talk to me about the nature of the injuries sustained by the 2 police officers? And do we know that the people that had to flee their homes this night, that any of those people sustained injuries? And Secretary of State, can you talk to me about your discussion with Minister Helen McEntee and questions that you have for her?
So with regards to police officers, we had one officer who was injured yesterday whilst directing traffic away from one of the pockets of disorder, and he was hit with debris on the head. He's okay. The second officer suffered smoke inhalation when a petrol bomb exploded near him and went under his snoot and had to be taken to hospital. You might recall we had 97 police officers injured last year. I again just want to pay tribute to this incredible organisation that I lead. Every day they turn up to do a job that most people could not and would not do. Thankfully last night, with regards to the people that we evacuated from those houses, there were no injuries. Our absolute focus yesterday was to protect life and property, and that's what we achieved. We'll now follow up with going after those who are responsible for those unacceptable scenes last night.
I called Minister McEntee last night because I was keen to brief her on what had happened, given what we now know about how the suspect arrived in Northern Ireland. And obviously there are questions for us, some of which have been asked today, and there will be questions too to the authorities in Ireland about what they know about the individual, because all of that may contribute to the investigation process that is rightly continuing, being led by the Chief Constable and his colleagues.
Belfast Telegraph.
Chief Constable, can you tell me, we've seen scenes last night of people going door to door and attacking the homes of migrant families.
Yeah.
What can you do to reassure those people that they will be protected? And also, do you believe that there is any organisation involved, any paramilitary or criminal gangs organising, helping organise this violence? And Secretary of State, can I also say, we're talking about people who have used online platforms to try and advertise these protests and bring people onto the streets. There was also some of your parliamentary colleagues that were involved in distributing some disinformation and misinformation. What would you say to those MPs who are not from Northern Ireland who are exploiting situations such as this?
If I begin with the need to reassure our communities, Alison. So yesterday we had an online meeting with probably around about 140 community leaders. Last night, I think the last call I made to a community leader was at around about midnight. Okay. In the last couple of years, we've built up an incredibly trusting relationship with our ethnic minority communities. One that actually I think is a benchmark for policing. And repeatedly when I speak to those community leaders and I visit those communities, they're repeatedly saying how thankful they are for what the PSNI are doing. Yeah. Last night again, people were saying that the PSNI was saving lives. Now, that's extraordinary, that in the light of the attacks that they're facing, they take the time and have the grace to thank us for what we're doing when they're facing unimaginable intimidation and threats. I will continue to work tirelessly, as will all of my colleagues, to reassure those communities. We've got community meetings tomorrow. I've spoken to community leaders again today. And our local police officers, of which we need many more because of the funding challenges, will be out and about speaking to those communities and reassuring them today. Your question about paramilitarism, we addressed this in the disorder in 2024 and 2025. It's too early for me to say at the moment, but I will not shy away from speaking truth with regards to any involvement of paramilitaries. But let's get the investigation underway to understand who was orchestrating this, both online and in person. And when we've got that investigative information, then through either prosecutions or public statements, we'll reveal it to you.
The fact that people in Northern Ireland are being targeted because of the colour of their skin should sicken every right-thinking citizen of the United Kingdom. And I'm afraid we have seen it before in the disorder in Belfast in 2024 when businesses were targeted because of who owned them and ran them. And we saw that in Ballymena with the disorder last year. The same thing happened. And what does this say about Northern Ireland? People who have come to this country, brought their skills, they're part of the community, they're working. I read a report that one of the families that was forced out of their home has lived here for 20 years. These are our neighbours, our friends, our colleagues at work. It is utterly shameful and people need to speak out about it. Secondly, there is a particular responsibility on members of Parliament, all of us, because we are leaders of our communities, and I genuinely welcome what so many leaders have said in appealing for calm, but we will be judged by the words that we use. And I would say, because I did comment on it yesterday in the House of Commons, when a reference was made to alien cultures, what was that trying to say? Because what is it saying about people who have come from Sudan? There's probably a surgeon from Sudan operating on someone somewhere in the United Kingdom as we stand here this morning, saving somebody's life. And we have a huge responsibility to think carefully about our language and not to fan the flames of disorder, the kind of disorder that we saw last night. People are absolutely right to be concerned about the terrible attack on Mr. Ogilvy. They have an absolute right to protest peacefully. They have no right to do so much damage to their own communities in Northern Ireland.
To the Secretary of State, the Education Authority has said it's up to individual schools whether to close or not. Do you think that's the right approach after last night's arrest? And to the Chief Constable, what are your plans, I know you touched on some of them, to address misinformation circulating online about the suspect for the investigation? And there are migrants who have told us that they have lost trust in the police after last night's arrest. What is your message to those who have lost trust in the service?
I would say that it is obviously for individual schools to take those decisions, depending on the circumstances, how they judge them, what may have happened in their area last night, what may not have happened in their area last night, but of course to take account of any guidance that is given by the authorities, including what the Chief Constable said a moment ago. John.
So your experience isn't my experience, and I'm out in those communities all the time, and they've literally all got my phone number. We've got an incredible strategic engagement team here. This organisation, for the numbers it's got, completely punches above its weight. We have reset our relationship with those communities in the past couple of years. So I would challenge what you said to me. And I want to remind you that, and it was in Ballymena last year that I met a family. In fact, there was a fire officer present who said, you need to know, in fact, the Secretary of State was there when we had this conversation. Your officers saved lives last night.
Absolutely.
And that's what these officers do day and daily. And it's the wider emergency services. Northern Ireland, and I have to say for the people watching this press conference, is an incredible place. It's a place that people should invest in. It's a place people should visit. It's a place, by the way, that's one of the safest places in the United Kingdom. Just think about what we saw last night. But statistically around crime, it's one of the safest places to visit in the United Kingdom. We've got to get that back. And we've got to stop what we saw last night. And that's incumbent on all of us. Okay.
Last question for that time. Chief Constable, you've already mentioned getting mutual aid and your repeated concerns about resources. Can you confirm if PSNI officers have been put on mandatory overtime, how that works? And the Secretary of State, we saw posters on social media circulating last night, and Tony Robinson's comments as well, calling for protests in England. How concerned are you that this will spill over into the rest of the UK?
Well, I saw those posters yesterday evening, I am not aware, and I haven't seen any reports in the media of disorder in the rest of the United Kingdom last night, and I very much hope that remains the case. And can I take this opportunity to pay tribute myself personally to the bravery and the diligence and the professionalism and the compassion of the officers of the PSNI, because I know from discussions I've had last time in Ballymena and before that in Belfast, and the officers I met after the bomb attack on Dunmurry police station, the very best of the best. And I would echo what John just said about the role that they have played last night, but previously, in saving people's lives from these thugs who think this is an acceptable way to behave. It isn't. And by these protests, they're putting great pressure on the police officers of Northern Ireland. And what would possess you to attack officers of the police force that has been investigating this terrible crime, has charged a suspect, and is seeking to bring people to justice? Our responsibility, all of us in this community, is to support the police and not to make their job harder.
Thank
John.
you. Thank you, Secretary of State, for those words as well. So this is a unique policing environment, I often say that. The men and women of the PSNI, mandatory overtime. We can't survive without them doing the hours that they do, well above and beyond what ordinary policing would expect to do. It's a vocational profession, I think, particularly in Northern Ireland. Even those who choose to be in the PSNI, because of the complex history here, have to take a decision that other police officers don't have to take on the island of Ireland or in the wider United Kingdom because of the threat to officers here. They are a very, very special group of people. And recently, some of you will have seen, there's a documentary we've done called Peelers, the PSNI for Real. These are ordinary members of our communities who decide to join the police service here and do an extraordinary job.
Yeah.
And we should celebrate and be thankful for every one of them. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.